please. Quiet. Okay? Ira. Ira. Oh.
On the left, Lieutenant Colonel Robert G. Cole of San Antonio, Texas, with Major John P. Stopka of Sheridan, Wyoming, both of the 502nd Parachute Infantry. Major Stopka seems to have a souvenir. Would you tell us what it is, Major?
Oh, yeah, just a piece of Nazi goods I picked up in a captured camp. Garrison?
The symbol of Nazism. Here are Lieutenant Colonel Robert G. Cole of San Antonio, Texas, with Major John P. Stopka of Sheridan, Wyoming, both of the 502nd Parachute Infantry. The Major seems to have a souvenir of some sort. Will you tell us what that is, Major?
Yes, a flag captured in the garrison.
Did you have to capture the garrison to get the flag, or did it just come along with it?
Oh, it came along with the garrison we captured. Quiet.
Was this a very large garrison, Major? Was this a very large garrison, Major?
Yes, it housed about a company of German static troops.
One company had to be about 200 men, would it not?
That's right.
How many men did you have in your group, sir?
We had about 14 to start with. By the end of the day, we had about 70 our own troops.
And how many prisoners were taken in this garrison?
Well, initially, we took about 34 prisoners and ended up, by the end of the day, about 72.
Did you get back with all of them?
We turned them over to the unit that relieved us.
I see, sir.
What made the job so difficult, I believe, is the fact that that hedgerow over there was just filled with snipers and filled with 3 and 4 men and 3 and 4 men emplacements. And our artillery was not heavy enough to knock them out unless you had a direct hit on it. In other words, they could get under cover when the artillery shells burst above them, and it wouldn't hurt them. Also, this orchard behind the house was just filled with the same type of emplacement. Very well concealed, very well covered, and offered excellent protection for the men in them. In individual cases, you have Germans using wood piles and building and climbing up in trees and using any natural thing that fits their use, and without disturbing its naturalness at all, digging an emplacement in it or under it, and they're very, very hard to get out. You can't see them until you're up on them, or even sometimes you're past them. And then the first thing you know, somebody's shooting at you from the rear with a machine gun. Of course, coming across this field, we were exposed to these men over here in the hedgerows here all the time, and they had us perfectly covered. So it's simply a matter of getting across the open ground as quickly as possible and getting in amongst them where it evolved down into an individual.
This is Captain Franck Lillyman of Syracuse, New York, of the Pathfinder Section, 502nd Parachute Infantry. Captain Lillyman was the first man to set foot on France during the invasion. Is that right, sir?
I jumped in number 1 position in the leading aircraft that night.
Well, that should have made you number 1, sir.
It should have.
What time was that on D-Day, Captain?
15 minutes after midnight.
On June the 6th.
That's right.
And you were wounded that night, I understand. How did that happen, sir?
The events of that night is still pretty hazy to me.
The action, I imagine, was rather rapid.
Things moved rather rapidly there when the gliders came in.
You were sent back to London to a hospital. How does it happen that we find you here today?
Well, officially, I'd rather not answer that, but actually I came back to France because I wanted to be with my group here.
A fine reason.
Time and a half for this?
And this is Captain Franck Lillyman of Syracuse, New York. This is Captain Franck Lillyman of Syracuse, New York, of the Pathfinder Section, 502nd Parachute Infantry. Captain Lillyman was the first man to set foot on France during the invasion. Is that right, sir?
I jumped in number 1 position in the leading aircraft that night.
That should have made you number 1 man, then.
Yes, it should have.
I understand that you were wounded that night, sir. How did that happen?
Got a little foolish, but the main events that night is still rather hazy to me.
We understand that you were sent to a hospital back in England. How does it happen that we find you here today?
Officially, I can't answer that.
Unofficially, would you say?
I came back to be with my outfit.
And a fine outfit to come back to.
Best soldiers in the division.
What do you think of their carrying on during this last 2 weeks, sir?
I think they've done a crack-up job.
What do you think of the way your men have acquitted themselves during the campaign so far, Captain?
I think they've done a crack-up job all the way through. This regiment's made history, you know.
They have borne out all of the good training that they had. Is that it?
Yes, sir, and a little bit more.
What do you think of the way your men have acquitted themselves thus far, Captain?
This regiment helped to make history in that Battle of Carentan. You've probably read about the Battle of the 4 Bridges on the roads leading into Carentan.
I'm quite sure that you're proud of them, sir.
No question of it. They acquitted themselves honorably.
Good. Congratulations to you and to them. What? I imagine you got into some rather tight places, didn't you, Captain?
I'll say we did. There's one in particular. Got shot that night I got shut up. I'd still be out there in the field if it hadn't been for Wilhelm here and Parks. Those 2 refused to get out of there until they got me off that field where I was exposed to enemy fire.
Good soldiering.